and welcome to my guide.
I'm joking, and this is not really a guide. This is my first quest video, and I just had to give props to the man, the myth, Slayer Music 1. He's helped me countless times and probably the entire player base. The work of a true hero. He's definitely on my old school RuneScape Mount Rushmore, so I have to give Slayer Music his flowers. Hey, what's up? I had an absolute blast doing Blood Moon Rises. It's such a good wrap up to the Vampyre and Myreque series. I enjoyed it so much that I wanted to make a walkthrough of the important parts of the quest. So the cutscenes, the fights, and even what happens after the quest, so what the future of Morytania holds. Now, I just posted a video about the entire Vampyre and Myreque series, including background information before the storyline kicks off. This video also includes the finale, Blood Moon Rises. So if you're interested in the entire storyline, go there. That video link's in the description. This video, however, is just solely focusing on Blood Moon Rises and what happens after. Fair warning, I will be spoiling what happens. So sit back, relax, and let's get into this epic film that is Blood Moon Rises. Right now, the remaining Myreque members have either been killed, captured, or accepted their defeat, but we can't give up. Let's get the gang back together and end this once and for all. Blood Moon Rises. We start this quest by speaking to the absolute saint, Sarius Guile, in the Icyene graveyard. Sarius tells us that it isn't safe for her and that she's leaving Morytania. She also tells us Lowerniel has Vanescula and Sifflon as his prisoners, and that Lowerniel has big news about the future and is calling a meeting at the capital where he wants all of the Vampyre citizens to attend. Before we leave, Sarius reiterates that Vanescula gave her money for safekeeping, and that she's always been good to her. But can we really trust a vampire? Especially a Drakan? With the news of Lowerniel's gathering, we go and tell Ivan, and try to motivate him and recruit him to come back to the Myreque. It takes some convincing, but he agrees and wants to help save Sifflon. So we get him into some Vyrewatch clothes, and we crash Lowerniel's meeting. At the meeting, Drakan tells the citizens that they have been weakened by becoming civilized. They were once hunters and now they are no more than farmers. He's creating a portal and wants to transport the vampires back to their homeland of Vamporium. Vamporium is not in the same realm as Gielinor, where Icyene and Morytania are. You can't just walk to or teleport to Vamporium. You need a portal to get there. While Lowerniel's giving his speech, a few vampire nobles stand their ground and challenge his idea. They say that when they were in Vamporium, they were mere savages, and they don't want to go back to that life. Pretty bold of them to challenge Drakan. I definitely would not have done that if I were them. But Lowerniel announces that he is hosting a Blood Moon Festival. During a Blood Moon Festival, the vampire with the most kills at the end of the night becomes the new leader. He explains that the blood from the festival will be what is needed for the portal to Vamporium to withstand that mass number of vampires entering it. At the end of his speech, he suggests that the vampires begin preparing for the festival, and he points out the two humans who have been listening in on the meeting the whole time, as a good way to start for the festival preparations. Lowerniel was really the only one who could smell the humans, and he didn't even care that we were there. Dude, the aura farming is crazy. So, we get attacked, and we beat some vampire and blood-veiled ass, and then Ivan teleports us out. Now that we know of Lowerniel's plan, we plot a way to travel to Vamporium, save Safflon, travel back to Gielinor, and close the portal, trapping Lowerniel in Vamporium. But we're gonna need some help, so first we need to recruit our old boy Velyaf. To sleep we go! Let's see how he's been holding up since that last rage quit at the Myreque base. Once in sleep, Ivan and I figure he could be anywhere, but given Velyaf's state the last time Ivan and I saw him, we feel the bar would probably be a great place to start. We talk to the barkeep and ask if he's seen a grumpy fellow with black hair and a mustache. The barkeep says yes, he's seen him. He was here earlier, having a drink. He then tells us that there was a commotion at the Cromwick Manor. We go there and it's swarmed with fires, so we enter the manor through the dungeon entrance. When we get inside, we save a 0.4 blood alcohol level Velyaf from the Vampyres, and even after saving his ass, he's still sour towards us. We tell him our plan, and Velyaf is not receptive at first, but Ivan stands up for himself and really digs into him. Velyaf's been in the dumps for a while now, and if this sounds like you don't have to, thanks to today's sponsor, BetterHelp. No, I'm just kidding, there's no video sponsor, but maybe in the future. After Ivan's verbal haymaker towards Velyaf, he storms off to Paterdomus to look in the library for potential ways to reach Vamporium. Let's pause for a second and talk about Ivan's importance and why he needed to leave Bergerath to be protected back in the aid of the Myreque quest. Both Ivan and Dretzel are descendants of the original 7 priestly warriors who blessed the River Salve and won the war against the Vampyres. Dretzel is a descendant of one of the 7 priestly warriors. However, do you remember that one of the 7 priestly warriors survived the blessing of the River Salve? His name was Avandus Seergaze. Again, he was the only one of the 7 to survive the blessing. Ivan is the only living descendant of Avandus Seergaze himself. That is why he is important and needs to be protected. Velyaf made a promise to Ivan's mom. He would look over and protect Ivan. He also kept who Ivan was a secret from him his whole life. However, as Ivan got older, he put 2 and 2 together, so he now knows who his family is and their importance. I said during the background portion of this video, we would learn about Avandus' fate, and we learn his fate now. When we arrived at Paterdomus, Ivan hands us a journal from Avandus Seergaze's squire. It mentions that even though the River Salve was blessed and the war was won, Avandus set out on a suicide mission to kill Lowerniel Drakan. It didn't make sense to his squire, but Avandus' last request to him was to hide and preserve his notes on the events leading up to the blessing of the River Salve. Ivan suggests we go up to the library in the temple to find more. In the library, we find 6 journals from the other priestly warriors. We place all 6 of the books on a plinth. Then we hear a click and find Avandus' journal. The journal notes say that he was now the last survivor, and it was his job to document the events. It also goes into detail about what happened leading up to the ritual. To perform the blessing, the 7 priestly warriors conducted research on the vampire practice of helm alchemy, the study of transmuting or modifying blood. He mentions that while this study is the process that leads to vampirification, he also notes that it's the key to overcoming the vampires. He doesn't sugarcoat it and says that the blessing of the River Salve was nothing more than a blood ritual, but for the sake of the people of Misselin, they called it a blessing rather than a blood ritual. Once they started the incantations, the vampires came with more ferocity than ever before. The warriors began to fall, but not in vain. The ritual was a success. Avandus then buried his brothers and sisters. The next day, Avandus woke and he immediately knew something was wrong. He felt a sickness, pain, a hunger inside of him. The only explanation was vampirification. He refused to become his mortal enemy, nor let his fallen brothers and sisters see him become the very thing they set out to destroy. He mentions that on one scouting mission, he mapped tunnels deep beneath Morytania, and mentions one tunnel that goes directly under Castle Drakan. His plan is to use that tunnel, enter the castle, and finally put an end to Lord Lowerniel Drakan once and for all. He went on this mission, but the mission was not successful. He met his fate in Morytania, being buried in a coffin placed in a cave connected to the tunnels he mapped beneath Morytania. Avandis' last notes say that the salve is secure, and his family is secure, and even if he dies to Drakan, hope will always prevail. Just because Avandis could not kill Drakan, doesn't mean his family, Ivan, and Ivan's friends will share his same fate. Avandis laid the groundwork for the mission. He was KIA, but that leaves us to pick back up where he left off. So we head back downstairs to tell Drexel what we found, and when we arrive, Veliath! The Myreque are back! He made the right decision. We tell Veliath and Drexel that the plan is to use the tunnel to enter Castle Drakan, find the portal to Vamporium, rescue Saflan, go through the portal to get back to Gielinor, and close the portal behind us. Both Veliath and Drexel think we're insane, and Drexel wants King Ronald's army behind us, but we set out on the mission anyways. We get to the underground tunnel, and we need a pickaxe. Jagex, Ivan, is surprised we didn't bring a pickaxe with us. He says that even though you knew you were going to an underground cave, you didn't bring a pickaxe? We say no, and I feel stupid, but plot twist. Ivan says he has one we can use, so we don't have to go back to the bank. What a guy. I knew I liked this dude. But hey, Jagex, that made me laugh. That's really great writing there. Bravo. We mine our way through the cave, fight some Vampyre sentinels, release some slaves along the way, and enter Castle Drakan. Once in the castle, we go upstairs and find the portal to Vamporium. So, through the portal we go. Once we get to Vamporium, we talk for a quick second. We mentioned that this castle looks almost identical to Castle Drakan in Gielinor, and that the Drakan family probably modeled the castle in Morytania after the one in Vamporium. When we entered Castle Drakan through the basement in Morytania, we noticed that there was a dungeon. And if the castle in Vamporium is the same, then that's probably where Saflan is being held. Right before we head down, we're interrupted by some Venators, so we run away and we get split up. To explore and find new rooms of the castle, we do a scavenger hunt and puzzle to fix some clocks, do some home improvement, and find keys. I'm not a big fan of puzzles, but if you like puzzles, you will definitely like this one. So we enter one room and are reunited with Veliath. We make sure he's okay, we keep finding keys, and eventually we go downstairs and we find Saflan and Vanescula. When we talk to Saflan, he's out of it. We ask Vanescula what her brother has been doing to him, and she says he's been like that since they've arrived. We assume it's from his blue orb Icyene powers thing he used to take out Randstrom. The priority is to get Saflan back to Morytania, and then close the portal, trapping Lowerniel here in Vamporium. But Vanescula says that Lowerniel comes down here often to collect blood from Saflan, so he must be stockpiling it. That means even if we make it back to Gielinor and close the portal, Lowerniel will be able to reopen it and fuck us up. So, we set out to find the stockpile. Vanescula says it's probably somewhere in his private chambers. To get into Lord Drakan's private chambers, we need to place the ornate knife, ornate hourglass, and ornate skull in the display case. I did this day one, and dude, it took me forever to find the skull. I hope you have Quest Helper or at least an updated wiki when you have to find these items because, man. But I found the skull, we put the items in the display case, get the gilded key, open the gilded door, and Ivan! With Ivan, we then reorganize the vampire house books in a specific order, and this opens a secret passage, and we get the full moon key. To get into the room with the blood supply, we do some more scavenging and find the ancient symbol and the ancient shield. We then place the shield back on the correct spot on the wall and get the solid key. Using the solid key, we open the door and find Lowerniel's stockpile of Saflan's Icyene blood, and destroy it. But as we turn around, a Venator is about to have its way with us, and then Vanescula comes and kills it. She says we've been up here for a while, so she's just making sure her brother didn't find us. Good guy or not? What do you guys think? Can we trust her? I don't know. So we've destroyed a stockpile. Now it's time to get out of here and close the portal behind us. But right before we leave, the portal...
After all these years, I have found that life has become so monotonous. Take my sister here. There was once a time when I found elation in her little plots. Over time, however, elation became boredom. Eventually, boredom became indifference. In this little foray of yours, however, I confess, it has me moderately impressed. This bravery, this defiance, it brings back a taste that's become all too absent back in Morytania. To find it again, here in Vamporium. How fitting indeed.
What's it to be then, brother? Back to the cells with us? Or will you do us the kindness of killing us here and being done with it?
Vanescula, my dear sister, you never fail to disappoint. Have you truly become so despondent that even mere humans now offer more tenacity than you?
Oh, I assure you, brother, I still have plenty of fire within me.
Good. Then let us put it to the test.
You're toying with us.
I'm offering you a choice. If you wish for your freedom, it's right out there waiting for you.
You...
Vanescula.
Let's go. Now.
Let the hunt begin.
We then go outside to a bridge that we need to cross, but Vanescula says that it hasn't been used for thousands of years. The group begins to argue, but ultimately I volunteer to find the missing parts. But we do have the Dark Lord of Vamporium on our tail, so take your time, right? He could be anywhere, and I'm scared. I find a clog and use it to open the door on the altar when... What am I supposed to do there? What was I supposed to do there? Well, that boss fight's gonna be crazy. Is the crank still over there? Oh my god, dude! What do I do? Dude, Drakan's right there. What do I do, bro? I can't do anything about this fool. He's just toying with me, bro. That's so scary. Oh my god, bro. No, I can't go that way. It's like Michael Myers. Once I get all the parts and we fix the bridge, the plan is to get as far away from Lowerniel as possible, double back, and then make a new portal. We cross the bridge, and we do just that.
Do you remember this place, Vaneskilla?
All too well.
This was our real home. Not that town back there, or the castle. This here is the last place we were meant to be.
And who was it who changed all of that, brother?
My greatest mistake. One that will finally be put right. At long last, the blood moon will rise once more. And when it does, we will finally reclaim the greatness that we lost.
Greatness? I remember it a bit differently. Fear, suffering, and carnage. That was what life was like here.
Yes, and it was beautiful.
It was barbaric. Thousands of years have passed, and yet I still remember what happened here like it was yesterday. I remember looking on as our father sat right where you are now, with you stood over him.
Just as he wanted. He dreamed of the day when I would succeed him.
I was a child. I was a child who had to stand and watch as my father died.
Our father died in glory. He fought on the night of the blood moon and fell as a warrior.
A warrior? Is that what you tell yourself? You killed him like he was a mere animal, a mere beast.
We've always been beasts, Vaneskilla. And no matter how much you try and hide it, that's all we will ever be.
We then fight Drakan, and well... Alright, BRB, time for a guide. Okay, we then fight Lowerniel, and you gotta look for the sparkles here. Aha, nice. And after dodging enough of his attacks and doing minuscule damage, my god, he's scary. We run away and get lost in the woods. As we run into the woods, we get split up, but we keep on trekking. We run into some ancient feral vampires and beat their ass. Chop some darkwood trees and parkour their ass. Walk by some maxillipes and hide from their ass. Encounter some nilocust spiders and beat and throw spikes at their ass. Then we wrangle some blood serpents and Steve Irwin their ass. All the while, ticks keep coming into our inventory and biting us. Dude, Vamporium is terrifying. Take me back to Priv where I belong. But we get past the serpents and enter the next stage of the woods. Let's see if we can get their ass. Nope. Well, it was nice knowing you guys. Drakan starts out by complimenting our skill. He says it's rare for a human to fight this well. Hey, thanks man, I mean, that means a lot coming from a mass murderer with similarities to the dude who was in charge of Germany in the early 1940s. Thanks. While flattered, we respond by saying we're not here to impress him. We won't be plagued by your evil any longer. Drakan says, evil? If only it were that simple. We say that he is responsible for the death of thousands, and he keeps humans as slaves, as cattle. He asks, does a farmer not quarrel with cattle? We fight back and say, he is no farmer and humans are no cattle. We go back and forth, but ultimately Drakan agrees. He says that what he did to the humans was wrong, but at the same time was so necessary. He goes on saying the day vampires became farmers and stopped being hunters was the day that they lost who they were. He then acts like he's the good guy. He says if he gets his way, he will bring the vampires back to Vamporium, and there will be none left to feed on the humans in Morytania. We rebuttal and ask, but how many humans must die to power the portal? The cost is too high. Drakan responds and says that there's always a cost. The weak die so the strong can survive. That is nature. That's even how humans operate. We say that there always can be an alternative. Then Drakan asks what would that alternative be? Vanescula? He asked us if her plan did succeed and he dies, how would Vanescula solve the blood shortage issue? We say the Helm Alchemy Lab was her solution. There, they were researching ways to overcome the shortages, but Drakan shut it down. He then lays the hammer and tells us that it was actually Vanescula's order to shut it down, not his. He says she never did want to see that work succeed, but we don't believe him, and he says that's cool, we don't have to, it makes no difference to him. He then tells us we are just a distraction to him, a passing amusement on his route to bring glory to his people. He says the night of the blood moon approaches, and while he has enjoyed this little diversion, he has more important things to tend to. So, here we go. We're gonna take on Drakan one-on-one. When? Whoa. Come with me, now. That's Savlon's mom. It has to be. Or his sister. What? When we get to the bridge, we're asked if we are alright. We say yes, but then we ask who she is, and she confirms. She is a Faraday Hollow, Savlon's mom, and the once queen of Hallowvale. What? That's crazy. We then ask how she's alive, and she goes on to explain that she was Drakan's prisoner for many years, and that she will tell us more once we're inside. But we stop her and plead that our friends and her son are still out there. But she informs us that our friends are safe and that we need to go. There's someone waiting inside to meet us. We get inside and say hi to Veliaf and Ivan and ensure that they're alright. We notice that the hooded figures look familiar. They look like the ones that we've talked to outside of the Theater of Blood. Veliaf confirms this and tells us it's confusing and that we just need to go meet them ourselves. So we go and meet their leader, and he's a vampire? However, he greets us warmly and says it's good to finally have a proper meeting. We mention that we've never heard such kind words come from a vampire before. He says yes, he holds a different perspective than most other vampires. We're like, alright, sure dude, okay. Then he says it's nice to finally meet us in person. And then we connect the dots. This is who the hooded stranger connected us to during the night of the theater quest. The man who couldn't reveal his name or location. He's their master. He then introduces himself as Sugadinti Vatur. We ask, Vatur? Like Verzik Vatur, the queen boss bitch of the Theater of Blood and the one who was buddy-buddy with Randus Drakan? That's not good. He confirms that yes, Verzik is his daughter, but he then explains that his daughter betrayed him a long time ago. She sided with Lowerniel Drakan and made an attempt on his life and left him for dead, after he refused to unite the Vampyre vampire clan with the Drakan clan. So when he heard the news that we shared to the hooded stranger after we watched Verzik's memory and found out she perished due to the Nilocus Spider Queen, Mr. Vampyre was rather amused to hear that news. He then apologizes to us and says that betrayal comes so naturally to their kind, vampires. He then goes on to say that Vanescula wanted us to help her take out her brother, but then her plans for us really weren't as altruistic as it seemed. Vampyre shows us some Dayalt essence, and she explains that Vanescula had this on her. Dayalt is a key ingredient that leads to vampirification. We don't know what Vanescula's true intentions would have been after we killed her brother, but Mr. Vampyre confirms that we have no need to worry about her. Vanescula is now, and forever will be, his prisoner. He then tells us that they've been able to stay quiet, hidden out in this castle in Vamporium. But now that they've exposed themselves, it's only a matter of time before Lord Lowerniel comes knocking, and I don't think he's the friendliest of neighbors. Mr. Vampyre says that the RNA have been studying Helm alchemy, and that they are almost to the point of making their own portal to travel back to Myceline. He says he has some final preparations to make, but the portal is almost ready. We then ask, what happens if Drakan comes before the portal is ready? Mr. Vampyre's answer is that the RNA will sacrifice themselves for the greater good and hold him off as long as possible. We say we agree to Mr. Vampyre's plan, but he then calls us out about the concern that he hears in our voice. We explain to him that this is just a lot to take in and that we really don't know how much we can trust a vampire. But Vampyre sticks up for Mr. Vampyre. She says that if it weren't for him, she wouldn't have survived in Vamporium after she escaped from being Drakan's prisoner, so we must have faith in him. Now, it's time to assist with the final preparations needed to make the portal. We get to meet Papa Vampyre and Vampyre. How cool. And Vanescula? You little snake. Alright, let's get to work. First, we talk to Vampyre, and she has us make Safflon and Amatire stew to help his healing. He recognizes us for a second, and thanks us for not giving up on him, but then he goes back to resting. We continue talking to Vampyre, and she tells us that Drakan is a monster, keeping her captive, drawing her Icyene blood to travel to and from Vamporium, giving her false hope that her daughter was alive, and that her husband was still alive. She stays positive though, and says that she does not want to dwell on the past. She then notifies us of ways we can enhance our Avandis flail. She says that the weapon Drakan uses was made by her. She made it out of blisterwood and silverthrow, both materials made to damage vampires. We ask if that weapon would hurt Drakan to use, and she says it almost certainly does, but he uses it as motivation to push through, a sign of strength. She brought this up because of the pure silver material. She kept and smuggled some from the once holy city of Hallowvale. She says we should use it to make our blade more powerful. She also told us a little bit more about Hallowvale, and I know I'm a Priff local, but if Hallowvale was still around, I might have myself maybe a little 1-bed, maybe a little 2-bed apartment there too, you know, multiple properties. That'd be pretty sweet. Alright, we get the silverthrow and other materials from the armory and turn our Avandis flail into a hollowed flail. Let's go. We then talk to Ivan and Saray, and they're doing okay. We then go talk to Veliath, and he's skeptical of Mr. Vampyre because, well, he's a vampire, and he's kind of skeptical for good reason. Next, we talk to Vanescula, and she tries to explain herself, but it really doesn't make much sense. I don't know. I don't completely mistrust her. I feel like she could still be on the side of the Myreque, but we'll see. Then we go talk to Mr. Vampyre, and he says he's working on the portal, and it'll be ready soon. He says if all goes well, we'll make a portal, and both of the Drakan siblings will be trapped in Vamporium. And then once everyone's back in Morytania, he says that he will step in as a new vampire leader, and that humans will all be freed. But I don't know guys, this sounds a lot like Vanescula. They both want to lead and have a world where humans and vampires can live in harmony. So I don't know about that. Guess, again, we'll see. But Drakan is coming, and it's time to fight, so I will see you on the bridge. Once outside, Saray steps in front of us. He tells us that while our bravery is commendable, we shouldn't be out there, and we need to head back inside where it's safe. We reply by saying, but if Drakan gets through, no one will be safe, and that our place is here. He agrees to let us stay, but tells us to fall back as soon as he gives the command. Downstairs, Velyaf asks the other RNA about Venescula. The RNA disciple tells him not to worry, and that they will ensure that she does not get anywhere near the portal, and tells Velyaf to go upstairs and wait for the portal to be finished. Upstairs, a Faraday asks Mr. Vampyre how much longer it will be until the portal will be ready. Mr. Vampyre responds with, as much time as we can buy. Faraday says that the RNA stand no chance against Drakan, and that every last one of them will die. Mr. Vampyre confirms that they will, because they are aware that Drakan's rule will continue if they don't make that sacrifice. Ray says if it's no use, we need to fall back into the entrance hall. We tell him we're not leaving him out here. He responds with, "Today is not the day you die, my friend. Now, go." Thanks to Saray's heroic sacrifice, we make it inside. But Drakan slays Saray and the 2 RNA that were by his side. For now, the castle is secure and Drakan is on the outside. I said earlier that Drakan is not the nicest of neighbors, and well, he's not taking us denying his hangout invitation very well. The focus is on keeping the castle closed off and Drakan outside. However, we do have a problem in the basement. Due to Lowerniel's aggressive knocking, a piece of the roof falls on top of one of the RNA, and his hold on Venescula stops. Once down, she morphs into her vampiric form and takes out the other RNA. Upstairs, a Faraday walks into the entrance hall. We stop and tell her that she's too important and she should not be up here. She rebuttals and says that if Drakan gets through those doors, it won't matter where she is. And we lock down the room. My job now is to repair the damaged windows and heal our RNA allies when they go down. However, eventually, Lowerniel busts through the castle doors and immediately engages in combat with the Faraday, the RNA, and I. as strong as Lowerniel is, I'm happy we don't have to fight a Faraday. She's just as good a fighter. And hey, thanks for those heals, Faraday. Couldn't do this without you. Together, we fight Lowerniel for a while, and then an RNA disciple notifies a Faraday to fall back. The portal is ready. Faraday and I fall back when that little problem in the basement shows up. Vanescula binds Saflan and calls out a Faraday. Faraday tells her to let him go. Vanescula responds, so that we can just leave her here? No chance. If we want Saflan to live, we must grant her access through the portal. Mr. Vampyre tells a Faraday that we do not have time for this. A Faraday says that she will not abandon her son and asks Mr. Vampyre to let Vanescula through. When Lowerniel says that he sees that Mr. Vampyre survived after his daughter left him for dead. And he also mentions that Mr. Vampyre has two things of his, referring to Saflan and a Faraday. He continues telling Mr. Vampyre that he will be generous with him and allow him to keep one, Faraday or Saflan. Faraday steps in and says she doesn't need Mr. Vampyre to make that decision for her. She tells Lowerniel that if he wants her, she's right here. Faraday goes to attack him when Drakan sends out a blood attack that hits the portal, and then everything goes black. All of a sudden, we spawn back in Morytania, but only with Ivan. We ask him what happened and where everyone else is. Ivan says that Lowerniel's spell did something to the portal and it must have separated everyone. We then point out the sky and note that we're running out of time. Ivan mentions the color of the moon and we say that it can mean only one thing. Then, Ivan points out a Vyrewatch and a vampire noble walking with two humans. We say that they're already gathering sacrifices for Drakan's Blood Moon Festival. Ivan asks what the plan should be, and we say that we need to regroup and find the others. We note that if Velyaf is with them, he would have taken them somewhere safe. Ivan mentions the Myreque hideout, but we say no, that's too risky. It'll be too hot. He then mentions the Birderot hideout, and we decide to start our search there. Now that we're back in the Birderot hideout, we find Velyaf and Mr. Vampyre here. Mr. Vampyre tells us that Drakan cast a spell that expanded the portal and sent us all back here, meaning Lowerniel's here too, and that we're unsure of the whereabouts of a Faraday, Saflan, and Vanescula. The original plan failed. We didn't trap Lowerniel in Vamporium. So time to adjust, and we need to adjust fast. Mr. Vampyre was gathering allies to overthrow Drakan, but his plan was cut short due to our unexpected arrival in Vamporium. However, he does have one trick up his sleeve. He tells us that this ally is currently unaware that they will help him overthrow Lowerniel, but he thinks that he can convince her. His ally is the Nilocus Spider Queen that took over his daughter, Vampyre. His goal is to get her to join his side willingly, but this will be a tough feat to pull off. Velyaf mentions finding Saflan and a Faraday, so we ultimately decide to split up. I go with Mr. Vampyre to the theater, and Velyaf, Ivan, and some of the Arene will go and look for the others. We meet Mr. Vampyre outside the Theater of Blood in Versanaza. He says that I will wait outside the Nilocus Spider Queen's chamber while he goes in. He says to make sure that they are not disturbed. If she resists, she will call her minions to her aid. So we head in and, well, that bitch resisted, because we fight waves of Nilocus and maidens while they talk. After 4 waves of enemies, the Nilocus Queen and Mr. Vampyre walk out, and he says after some initial disagreements, they have met a compromise that will suit all parties. The compromise was that the theater will stay open, but instead of the weak going in for a chance to gain their freedom, the people who enter will only be strong challengers who volunteer to take on the theater. Much more tasty for the Nilocus. And no more selling false hope for freedom. No more Seraphinas. Then, And Erin tells us they found Vanescula's location and that they need assistance. She was seen just north of Bergerat. We get there and find Ivan and Velief outside. We tell them that the Nilocus Queen has agreed to help us. They said that someone reported a vampire going into this location with a quote-unquote very tall man. Velief and I go in to investigate while Ivan keeps a lookout up top. We get down there and find Vanescula and notice that this is another vampirification lab. She had Safflon and took matters into her own hands. She says that we can't take on her brother, even with Mr. Vampyre on our side. She says that because Safflon has Icyene blood, he'll be unstoppable. She admits that Velief and I won't be able to accept that this is the only way to defeat her brother. She says that hope alone can't win wars. Winning wars is about sacrifice. So, she put Safflon through the process of vampirification. She turned him into a wired. I don't know how to pronounce that, so I'm just doing my best, guys, sorry. Again, she turned him into a wired, so strong that even she couldn't handle it. Next, Safflon breaks the glass of his pod, punches Vanescula and Velief across the room. We try to talk reason into him, that he's the same old Safflon, but he says, Safflon is gone. We tell him, it's not too late. We can reverse the process of vampirification. He says no, leave him be. And we tell him we're not going to abandon him. And he says, okay, stay and die. Now, I skipped all the mechanics and just kited Safflon around the room and hit him with blisterwood spikes, and thank God I did, because I saw some footage of the real mechanics and god dang, it looks hard. We get Safflon to under 150 health, and then he tells us to please go, and he can't control it. We ask him to fight it, and in response, he punches us across the room and then storms out. Ivan then comes down to check on us. We ask about Velief, and he said he's hurt badly. We then ask about Vanescula, and he says that she's in an even worse state than Velief. No comment. We tell Ivan to tend to Velief, and for him to make a Guthix balance potion to stop Safflon's process of vampirification. There is still time. We leave the vampirification lab and follow the blood trail from an injured Safflon. We track him to the gates of Bergerat, guarding Castle Drakan. We assume that Safflon is heading straight for Lowerniel, so we go and warn the others. When there, Mr. Vampyre says that the blood moon has fully risen and that the festival is starting. On our way to the castle, we step outside and the people of Bergerat are there waiting. They ask us questions and we motivate them. We say the Myreque are back and that we are putting an end to the Drakan rule tonight. Myreque prevail. Lowerniel addresses the vampires, saying that the time has finally arrived. He notices that some vampires have come prepared. However, he also notes that rounding up starving humans will not be enough for them to survive the night of the Blood Moon Festival. He also calls out the vampire noble, who was eager to speak out against Drakan when he announced the festival, and made the observation that that noble has decided to remain absent. However, the other vampire noble who spoke out rebuttals and says that it also could be that his friend just had no interest in watching this farce. Lord Drakan says that this noble impressed him by showing up, and that he was sure he'd find a hole to crawl in like the other noble who decided to speak out and was afraid to show. He then humiliates him and says that he feels that even humans would have no trouble killing him. He doubles down and says that he won't even give the humans the chance. His original intention was to have his sister, Vanescula, be the first to sacrifice her blood and start the Blood Moon Festival, but that he is more than capable of adapting. Then he kills the noble and uses his blood to present the portal to their salvation. He tells the vampires that this is their destiny. This noble was the first blood to provide for the portal, but it needs more to power and to transfer all of the vampires to Vamporium. Drakan says that with this first sacrifice, the Blood Moon Festival has finally commenced. But then, Mr. Vampyre cuts him off. He says that he hopes that we're not too late. Lowerniel responds with, he couldn't even imagine Mr. Vampyre being present on this night, but he admits that it feels fitting. Lowerniel says that Mr. Vampyre, Vampyre, and even the humans represent his greatest failings. But now, we will help him put these failings right. Mr. Vampyre responds by saying that we've decided on alternate arrangements for the future of the vampires. He says, though, it's unfortunate that his daughter, Vyrzek, isn't here to help him this time. Drakan replies he does not require his daughter to be able to kill him. Mr. Vampyre says that yes, this may well be correct, but it's not him alone that Drakan will have to face. Then in comes the Myreque's newest ally, the Nilocus Spider Queen. Drakan comments saying that he sees that the Myreque have been busy, but wonders if it'll be enough to stop him. Mr. Vampyre says that he guesses we'll have to find out. Then the whole gang goes in and fights Drakan, and this dude puts up a fight against all of us. Without a Faraday, we'd be doomed, and shoot, even with the Faraday, I was doomed a couple times. No! Damn. I really thought I was going to be able to do that. The team fights him while I just sit there and chug brews, and we get him down to under 900 hit points. And Saffron comes in and pounces on Lowerniel, rips off his wing, and then Saffron tackles Lord Drakan through the portal. And before anyone can make a move, Mr. Vampyre closes the portal. Ivan shouts, "What are you doing? Saffron is through there." Faraday, unaware that Saffron had been vampirified, says, "You're saying that thing?" She tells Mr. Vampyre, "We need to reopen the portal." He replies that he's sorry, Faraday, but we can't risk it. Drakan is now trapped. We can't let him back through. She says she will not abandon her son. Mr. Vampyre says that Saffron sacrificed himself to save us all. We can't undo that. She replies, "Sacrificed? You have no clue if that's the case." He tells Faraday, "We can't." She rebuttals, "What if you're wrong about this? Drakan will just use Saffron's blood to come back anyway." He replies that Saffron has been turned. His blood has been tainted. Drakan won't be able to use his blood. It's over. We won. She says, "Won? You would celebrate this as a victory? Is this all this was about to you? I trusted that you'd be better than Drakan." She continues, "Well, fine. Celebrate if you wish. But she will not leave her son behind," and flies off. Ivan steps up and says that Faraday is right. We need to go and help Saffron. Mr. Vampyre promises us that we will discuss this matter properly. But first, he needs to get the vampire population placated and address them as their new leader. He wants us to then wait inside the castle. Lowerniel is trapped. Mission complete. But at what cost? Saffron? This doesn't feel like a victory. Back inside the castle, Mr. Vampyre and some Icyene bring back Veliaf and Vanescula. Mr. Vampyre apologizes for rushing us inside, but in order for him to take lead of Morytania and rule the vampires, he needed to settle the crowd. He says, as of now, the vampires are accepting of his rule. Veliaf doesn't care and just wants to know about Saffron. Mr. Vampyre tells him that he sacrificed himself so that they could defeat Drakan, and that Saffron's sacrifice was not in vain. So Veliaf says Saffron is the cost? He then calls out Vanescula, saying that she gets to live but Saffron doesn't? Mr. Vampyre responds and says that there is a benefit to keeping her alive. She will help keep the vampires in line, but that she will live as his prisoner for eternity. We then talk about Faraday. She will stop at nothing to protect her son and get him back. Mr. Vampyre says that he has a request for me, but first he has a request for Ivan and Veliaf. He wants them to travel to Mistlin and tell King Ronald that he is the new leader of Morytania and that the vampire threat is no more. Before departing west, Veliaf and Ivan wish us luck in bringing Saffron back. Mr. Vampyre wants us to go talk to Faraday and make sure she doesn't try to go to Vamporium, because this could unintentionally give Drakan a route back to Morytania. So we head to the Icyene graveyard where we find Faraday at her daughter's tomb. Faraday knows her son is alive and says that neither Mr. Vampyre or I could stop her from going and getting him back. We tell her that Mr. Vampyre is right and we can't risk giving Lord Drakan a route back to Morytania. We also tell her that we're not going to stop her and that we will go with her to help. So, Verity opens a new portal to Vamporium, and we step through. And once there, we find an almost fully transitioned Safflon. Verity says that the vampirification process is almost complete, but there is still time. She wants us to take Safflon back through the portal and to make it quick so we can help slow down the process of vampirification. We tell her no, and that we understand that Verity didn't just come back here for her son, but also to put an end to Lowerniel Drakan. We tell her that not only her son needs her, but all of Morytania needs her. We promise her that this ends here. She thanks us and agrees to take Safflon back to Morytania to safety. That means it's up to us to take on Drakan 1-on-1. Taking on Drakan 1v1 is like a preschooler playing a wager match against LeBron James. Oh, okay. So, we grab our supplies and head in. This fight was a brew fest. It took me many tries to get it. It was challenging, but also satisfying to learn and skip the dodges. Well, I got cheesed by lightning or blood turning up my prayer at the last second and getting nuked by Drakan's mage attacks. Missing the punish mechanic opportunities. Or just struggling to see the 4 combo attacks swooping in at half a damn game tick. I got frustrated at times. But, let me remind you, this is Lowerniel Drakan, ruler of Morytania and lord of Vamporium. He's one of the most powerful living beings in all of old school RuneScape. He should be this difficult to defeat. Alright, but enough of my opinions, let's actually start this fight.
This land, there's such beauty here, but none of them ever stopped to truly see it. You know, since the day I claimed my father's title, I've found myself wondering when I will meet the same fate. I have seen empires rise, then watched them crumble into dust. I've witnessed the ascension of gods, then watched those same gods fade into nothing. And through all of those years, I've stared death in the face more times than I can count, only to defy her each and every time. But now, here you stand. You understand that even with me in this state, the odds are very much against you. Yet, despite that, you stand here, all the same. You, a mere human. I don't even know your name. But even if you succeed here, even if it is you who will rise and I who will fall, it does not matter, for I am right where I need to be. Home.
Oh my god. When we get back to Morytania, we find a Faraday tending to Sifflan. We tell her it's over, and she notifies us that Sifflan's wound is too great. If she reverses the process of vampirification now, he will die. So, Sifflan fully transforms into his vampiric form. Upon his full transformation, Sifflan asks us to end him. However, Faraday and I both say that we will be there for him no matter what, and that we will overcome this. He thanks us for always being by his side and never giving up on him. Faraday then thanks us for all we have done for her and for Sifflan. She gives us her sun spear and tells us she won't be needing it and that she's done fighting forever. They then head in one direction while we walk to the shoreline. A blood moon rose that night, but a new sun rises, and so does the dawn of a new age for the people in Morytania. We go back to Castle Drakan to talk and check in with everyone. We talk to a Faraday first, and she says that Mr. Vampyre asked her if she would like to rename Morytania back to Hallowvale, but she declined. She says Hallowvale will never exist again. So there goes my dreams of having multiple properties. Priff and Hallowvale, but okay. But she hopes to somewhat renovate Morytania, making it less of the dark and dreary place that it currently is. We ask her how Sifflan is doing, and she says as well as expected. She explains that because he has Icyene blood, instead of turning into a normal vampire, the process of vampirification turned him into a wired, again I don't really know how to say that, a creature far more powerful than a normal vampire, but with uncontrollable hunger. She has been making him potions to help keep him in control. She then tells us that Sifflan would like to see us himself. She tells us he spends a lot of his time in Vamporium, helping the Icyene with their projects. He prefers to be far away from Morytania when he can be. So we head to Vamporium and we talk to Sifflan. When we get there, Sifflan tells us that even though Vamporium is a horrifying place, he gets a certain feeling of peace there. He says there are zero politics, no debates, and there's no good or evil there. In Vamporium, you can just be. He says, however, that could just be the monster in him talking. We reply and say, he's no monster. He jokes and says that how do we know that he won't just eat us right then and there? We reply and saying, good luck, I mean we're the ones who actually killed Drakan, so... Overall, it is terrible what happened to Sifflan, but he's still cracking jokes and making the most out of his situation. We then go back to the castle and we talk to Vanescula. She says that because of her injuries, shapeshifting is no longer possible. We tell her that if you play with fire, you're going to get burnt. And she replies that she burnt herself for a better future for her people and for our people. She also claims that if it weren't for her, Lowerniel wouldn't have been defeated. She claims that she's the one who turned Sifflan into a vampire and he's the one who injured him so that we could actually defeat him. And she was also the one who told us about the weapon we used to kill Lowerniel. And, well, there's a little truth to that, but, again, no comment. Next, we go talk to Mr. Vampyre and we ask him how things are in Morytania. He explains that his disciples, the Icyene, willingly provide a steady blood supply for the vampires, and that the tithing of humans is completely outlawed. We ask how the humans are doing, and he says the fact that they're not being tithed is a good start, but their homes are still in ruin, and that they are working on restoring their lands. But this could take many years. We talk about the portal to Vamporium. He explains that while the tithes from the RNA are okay for now, the true solution is Helm Alchemy, the process of transmuting or modifying blood, and that they've started labs in Vamporium to make this artificial blood. This is the project that Aferity said Saflan has been assisting with. We then head to Berterat to talk to old Veliaf, and he's started his own pub. He says without fighting, he needs something to keep him busy. So we ask how Veliaf is, and he says he's close to happy, so I guess that's good. He'd prefer that the vampires were gone completely and that he wishes his friend didn't get turned into one, but given the circumstances, he'll take what he can get. He says Saflan has came to see him a few times, but Veliaf swore to never step foot in Vamporium again. He also told us that him and Ivan have talked through their issues, and that Ivan sneaks away from Paterdomus from time to time to hang out with him. I'm glad Veliaf is doing what he loves. Drinking. And at that, he's a good businessman because every conversation ends with him asking us if we want to buy a drink. We asked if there are friend discounts, and he tells us to look around, so given the lack thereof walls in his pub, I can't be mad that he's asking friends to pay. He did mention Ivan, so let's go and check in with Ivan and Drexel in Paterdomus. First, we talk to Drexel, and he's happy that the situation is finished, and it's nice to not worry about vampires and werewolves anymore, but that it is unsettling that they're all now trying to be friends with the vampires. We agree on this, and he tells us that now there is no threat, that Ivan has been able to fully focus on his studies, and he will be a worthy successor when Drexel finally steps down. We then go upstairs to talk to Ivan, and he immediately complains about the amount that Drexel is making him study. That's funny. But he says he's visited Veliaf and Saflan a few times, and while Saflan seems upbeat when they are together, he does worry about him. However, we both agree that it's great that he has us as friends and that Aferity is here to look after him. All of our Myreque friends are settled, and they're working towards a better and brighter Morytania. We heard from Mr. Vampyre and Aferity that while it will take some time, Morytania will be revitalized. All living there will be at peace. The houses will be rebuilt, and all will thrive. Mr. Vampyre said it will take many years, maybe many human lifetimes, so while the Drakan age of the vampire is over, there still may be a storyline to repair Morytania. Jagex left that door open, but for now, at least we achieved our goal of obtaining peace in Morytania. Before making this video, I hadn't dove much into old school RuneScape lore. Like I said in the beginning, I'm a spacebar warrior, but man, this was a lot of fun. The storyline is so deep, interconnected, and well written. Shout out to Jagex for putting a nice ribbon on the Myreque and Vampyre series. The video that the official Old School RuneScape YouTube page put out on the day of or the day before the release of Blood Moon Rises, that was incredible. I mean, again, the storyline is so good. I wish there was a full-on movie or a TV series about it. Again, getting into the lore was so much fun, so let me know your thoughts on this storyline and then just on the Blood Moon Rises quest in general. Also, drop the number of attempts the Lowerniel fight took you. But I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching. Myreque prevail.